Today's topic, the future, Euro EVs. Nathan Brown here with FCP Euro, and today we're here to talk about the future of cars, the future of mobility. We're here to talk about electric vehicles.
No, God! No, God, please, no!
Whether we like it or not, for the foreseeable future, EVs are going to be a component or a part of the conversation when it comes to cars and mobility. EV can be an excellent commuter car, especially if you have a house that you can plug it in at night. It may not necessarily be the ultimate solution if you live in an urban environment. For example, if you have an apartment and you park outside, you're not necessarily going to be able to throw an extension cord down to charge your car overnight. When it comes to rural America, EVs may not represent the ultimate solution right now. Nonetheless, the internal combustion engine as we know it is likely in its waning moments.
Oh, don't cry, are you?
So this episode is going to be a little bit more free-form than a lot of our topic episodes. I'm going to generally talk about the available European EVs top to bottom. Okay, so EVs. If you're like me and you think of an electric vehicle, you probably think of Tesla first. And this makes sense. They're the first fully electric lineup that's available in terms of modern cars. So what if you're looking to adopt early and you have an itch to get an EV? What can you get? Well, it turns out if you want a European EV, quite a lot. European makes are going all in on EV. Whether it's Porsche, Audi, Mercedes, Volkswagen, Mini, even Volvo through their Polestar brand, all have growing EV lineups. I'll be the first to admit, when I think EVs, I think high-end. Crazy fast luxury EVs are the halo cars of tomorrow. It's a good way to help push forward the technology and help pay for development costs for EV cars for the rest of us. Audi and Porsche take top honors here, with the e-tron GT and the Taycan being the first fully electric high-performance GT cars on the market. Granted, there is the Tesla Model S Plaid, which is extraordinarily fast, but that is still a sedan. And these are proper GTs. These are performance cars. These are cars that stir a little bit something in the emotion when you look at them, and that really is the point. As I've alluded to, I am no expert on EVs, and there is a dizzying array of technology and terminology that is thrown around when it comes to talking about electric vehicles. I do understand horsepower and torque, and the range-topping Taycan Turbo S and the RS e-tron GT, which are basically the same car under the skin, even if the specs are not identical, certainly have plenty of that. You're talking about battery size, you're talking about how many motors, you're talking about what kind of motor. For the VAG group, the Porsche and the Audi, these are permanent magnet synchronous motors, or PMSMs. These are basically three-phase AC motors of sorts, which I admit I don't fully grasp how they work, but I do know that they make tons of power. We're talking 670 horsepower in the case of the RS e-tron GT and 750 in the case of the Taycan Turbo S. What's even more impressive is that this power overcomes the hefty 4,700 so pound curb weight of these cars. The Taycan Turbo S can accelerate 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds, which if you think about it, you're basically taking a Cayenne, a 5,000 pound vehicle, and getting it to 60 miles an hour in less than 2.5 seconds. It's madness, it's bonkers, but it's the reality that you live in when you're talking about a high-end EV. So undoubtedly, my favorite of these two is the Taycan Turbo S Cross Turismo. This is basically like a station wagon hatchback, electric, hybrid supercar. I don't know what it is. If I had $200,000 or so, I would probably buy one. Now, pretty much any of these cars that we're talking about on the upper end of the market are going to cost you somewhere north of $100,000. So while we're talking about the upper end of European EVs, we're going to talk about Mercedes with their EQS. Mercedes essentially went the opposite route of Audi and Porsche and went with a luxury sedan versus a sports GT or a sports sedan. It does not make as much power, it is not as fast, but it does have significantly higher range, partially thanks to a higher capacity battery, partially thanks to less power. So while the Mercedes-Benz EQS won't get you to 60 miles an hour in 2.4 seconds, it will get you much further down the road, somewhere around a 350 mile range, as opposed to 220 or so for the two supercars from Audi and from Porsche. It's safe to say that while $100,000 EV supercars are fun to talk about and probably fun to drive, it's not what most of us are going to have in the driveway. As we move downrange, there's a surprisingly large number of vehicles available from major manufacturers like BMW, Audi, Volkswagen, Jaguar, and Polestar. Polestar, of course, being the former tuning arm, now electric vehicle producer for Volvo. For BMW, their bread and butter really are sporty four-door sedans. So of course it makes sense for them to take a sporty four-door sedan and turn it into their EV. For that, they took their 4 Series and dubbed it the i4. Externally, it looks like a higher option 430i Grand Coupe, but underneath the skin, everything is different. It boasts a wider track, revised suspension, and features a solid 335 horsepower motor that can also achieve a solid 300 miles of range on a full charge. If you're talking about an EV and you're talking about an everyday driver, something like the i4 makes a lot of sense because it looks like a normal car. It probably drives a lot like a normal car, and it's not something that necessarily looks like it's out of the future. It's a normal car that happens to be an EV, which to me personally has a lot of appeal. Moving on to Polestar, you might be familiar with their bright blue signature paint that you've seen on highly tuned turbocharged Volvos over the last few years. Now Polestar exclusively makes electric vehicles under that moniker. Polestar has a number of vehicles on the market, but the Polestar 2 is probably one of the more affordable and friendly versions. The Polestar 2 is built on the C40 XC40 platform. It has a battery on the smaller side of things, but it's still rated for around 270 miles of range. Being a performance brand, they had of course to make a dual motor version as well, which cuts down on the range by about 20 miles, but ups the fun significantly. How much fun? 476 horsepower worth, about 4 seconds 0 to 60. With an entry price south of $50,000, it's not really what I would call economy, but it's not bad. Moving on to Audi, we have the e-tron and the Q4 e-tron. Both of these are SUV offerings. The Audi e-tron, just plain e-tron, no Q4, no GT, is a proper full-size SUV with a 4,000-pound towing capacity and over a 200-mile range. A $65,000 price tag means it's a lot of money for not a whole lot of range, and the Q4 e-tron may be a more attractive option for you. The Q4 is much more mid-sized. It actually shares the same DNA and a lot of the same platform as the Volkswagen ID.4. Both of these are compact SUVs, and while they're not massive, if you're talking about moving more than just people, they're the best option on the market today. So while the Q4 can't match the mileage of the BMW or even the Polestar, it has far more room than either one of those. With this MSRP starting just over $40,000, one of these high-tech machines is going to set you back about 10 grand less than a brand new Golf R. Speaking of VW, if blue circles are more your thing, more than the 4 rings, the VW ID.4 is the same basic vehicle as the Q4 e-tron. In my opinion, it's a little bit better looking. It's less expensive. It starts under $40,000, but at the end of the day, that really comes down to personal preference. With such a strong push when it comes to electrification in both Europe and here in the States, I would expect to see a lot more electric vehicles from Audi and Volkswagen in the very near future. Last but not least, we come to our compact EVs. These are the kind of vehicles that would excel in an urban environment or in any area where you have a shorter commute, but they're generally not going to be something that you'd want for long distance traveling. Mini comes in hot with a lightweight and compact 3,100-pound Cooper Electric SE. It's a hardtop hatchback with a tiny battery, 184 horsepower, and a scant 114-mile range. That said, the lightweight combined with what is most certainly going to be inspired Mini-like handling would make it a fun, if not necessarily long-distance, EV to drive. So being Mini, there are plenty of funky and fun colors to choose from, different wheel options, and it's a pretty good way of saying, hey, I'm still going to drive an EV, but I'm still going to be me. So being that it's the smallest, it's also going to be the cheapest, with the electric Mini Cooper coming in around $30,000. And $30,000 is possibly a lot to pay for a car that only gets a little over 100 miles on a charge. It's basically where we're at in the market right now. There's just not a lot that's super inexpensive. There are some cheaper options though, and the one that comes to mind is BMW's i3. Now the i3 was an early EV from BMW, and it's not actually sold on the US market anymore. There were multiple different battery pack sizes, there were multiple different models. There's even what was basically an M Performance version of it. None of them really set the world on fire when it comes to horsepower or distance, but you still got a pretty nice little setup. The range varied anywhere from 81 miles for the absolute smallest battery pack to 153 miles on the very largest battery pack. And The biggest difference on the i3 is it actually had what they called a range extender option. The range extender was actually a 2-cylinder generator that was in the vehicle that could charge the battery for you, so you didn't need to plug it in. That probably makes it the most useful EV for us if you're talking about urban dwelling and shorter distances and not necessarily being able to plug in. If there is a downside to the i3, it could possibly be one of two things. First up would be styling. I personally think they look really cool. Some people may not necessarily think so. However, if you start to compare it to some of the, I don't know, stylistic choices that BMW has made over the last 6 months or so, I think the attraction and the beauty of the i3 becomes a little bit more apparent. The other downside of the i3 is it's actually really expensive. If you're looking at a higher mile unit, like 100,000 miles or so, you're probably gonna pay 20 grand for it. If you're looking at something that's nearly new and very low miles, you might pay as much as $50,000. So the i3 is, I don't wanna say it's a legacy car or anything like that, but it's certainly not gonna be the most economical choice to make, especially considering the size versus the price. Legitimately, I almost forgot that there was a Mark 7 e-Golf available for a number of years. And the e-Golf actually turns out to be one of the most affordable electric cars on the market. You go on all the various car websites that sell cars online, you can find tons of these things for sale, and pretty much all of them under $20,000. There are some that are extremely low mile, that might be 25 or 28, but for the most part, they're all low mile. I mean, you're talking 30,000 miles at most or something like that, and it's like $19,000. So if there's a downside to the Mark 7 e-Golf, it's that the range is only about 125 miles. So it's kind of no wonder that they're all low mileage. I mean, you'd have to drive a lot and charge a lot to get the mileage racked up on one of these things. Regardless of the range, I can personally vouch for the amount of abuse that an e-Golf can take. Our own Patrick McMorran in our development department took his on the SCP or proving grounds and beat the ever-loving snot out of it. Screeching tires recharge. Screeching tires recharge. Even took the thing off track. I mean, he was pushing harder than almost anyone else, and there are other people there that had real race cars. Plugged it in one last time, drove it home. It was in the parking lot on Monday morning like nothing happened. He actually even talked to me about lowering springs and modifications. I don't think he went there, but the fact that he was thinking about it is, I don't know, it's kind of cool. At the end of the day, I guess I kind of have to look at experiences like that as a positive thing. You have a Mark 7 e-Golf that's being driven on an autocross course all day and then driven home. You have supercars that are able to do 0 to 60 in blindingly fast times. And it's times like that that you start to look at it and think, hey, maybe there's a future here. Personally, I don't necessarily see myself in an EV in the next 5 years, but never say never. You're not sure what's going to come out. You don't know what's going to be on the horizon. And it might just be an eGTI, or maybe it's a GTE. So what about you? Do you have an EV? Do you love it? Do you wish you still had an internal combustion engine car? Are you thinking about buying one? Will you never buy one? Go ahead, drop a comment below. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you on the next one.